Can you talk about the differences between financing your documentary work and the narrative films you're now financing?
Yeah, regarding financing for documentary films versus the narrative feature films, for decades it's been much easier to get the money to make the documentary films and the travel adventure films. They're almost always financed ahead of time, either through grants, but usually through a fairly wealthy person that has some interest in the documentary. That's been very interesting to me. So that's why I've been working through partners like Paul Perry and others that have access to certain investors that had a really keen interest in history topics or near-death experience topics or art and so on. And so they would finance these documentaries. So I didn't have to worry about that. And that was nice. It's obviously, that's the critical thing for filmmaking, is assuming you've got the great story and the talent and the gear, is you need the money. And everybody's looking for money, right? At every level of filmmaking. So for documentaries, I found that always to be more lucrative. I would just set a fee for my services if it's for directing and shooting or one or the other. And so usually I would come in as an associate production company in itself and provide the whole package of directing, assisting with producing, shooting, and editing. So I'd usually present a package of services for a certain amount of money for the documentary, and then that would just be financed through the equity investment, the person that's connected to the documentary. Now for feature films, that's the trick. That's the hardest thing in the world, is to make a successful feature film that gets its money back and profit. I think the percentage is only 5 to 10%, maybe only 5% of independent filmmakers that actually get their money back from a feature film and make any money at all. It's such a tiny percentage. So, and I've found that to be the case even after having decades of experience, track record, things to show people. You still have to go out there and prove it, raise the money somehow through equity financing, private investors. For me, that's the only way we've gone so far. We hope to get into the next echelon of filmmaking where it's $2, $3 million, $4 million, and then that becomes something now associated with offers to name actors that then you can reserve their talent and then negotiate with the banks for financing, or then you also can get money from, of course, the rebates from certain countries or states for money you spend in their state or their country. That's very competitive right now, by the way, and we could talk about that more. But generally for feature filmmaking, it seems to be more challenging, absolutely. Even with all the ideas and movies we've done already, every one you start off with and present to an investor, generally it's the return on investment sheet that they're interested in. And it's so hard to do that because the distribution model has changed so much, as we know, in the last 20 years. It used to be you could go in and do pre-sales for a feature film, obviously different territories, and you could make money right before you produce the movie on pre-sales. But now it's almost impossible for an independent filmmaker to get pre-sales or to get a minimum guarantee or anything from a distributor unless you have a name actor associated with it and you already have kind of a track record of making money with your features. So for me, it's just a big challenge, to get the funding. It is for almost every filmmaker to do a feature film, unless it's very low level of $50,000 or less. That's an interesting topic too. I don't know if we have time to talk about it, but it has to do with there seems to be now a train of thought with a lot of people that are talking about this, distributors too, that make a movie for $50,000 or less, or make it with your name actor associated and it's $1 million, $2 million plus. It seems to be like there's a dangerous landmine area between 50,000 to $1 million, where it's a no man's land, and it's filled with all kinds of possible places where you can be blown up and not get your money back. And that's because of name actors are everything. That's what every distributor at Cannes, at AFM, at Berlin's market, it doesn't matter what you come up with a story. They say, who's in it is the first question, and who's in your movie, because they need to get a handle on it. Who are they going to put in the poster, in the trailer, so on and so forth. So, but some distributors are saying, well, make something that is action-y, they use that term, action-y, or horror, genre-based, or something like that, martial arts, something, these genres, right? For $50,000 or less, I think we can definitely make money on that. So it's a very strange model right now in my mind. Why can't you do something in that $500,000 range and get your money back and profit if you're a talented filmmaker? Very challenging right now. Very challenging. Almost, you're fighting the odds so much. Like I said, less than 5% will succeed in that range.
When looking for an investor, how do you know which investor will withstand being able to not get their money back should the opportunity arise?
Right. With the films that we've done, since they're micro-independent features, usually, me included, we go to friends or friends of friends that have the wherewithal to be able to put in money for points. And usually a film is made under an LLC. For each film you have a limited liability company and bank account, and you approach with your sell sheets, with your pitch deck and your track record, and if they're a friend, they already know this already. So you try to get them to buy in for $10,000 for a point, or it might be 2 points of value. If they put $20,000, they get 4 points, or it depends on the structure of your budget. Maybe they get just 2 points. But then, as you probably heard before, usually almost always the deal is structured where you tell that investor that they're going to get the first money back plus 10% or 20% on top of their investment before the rest of the money is dispersed to the other LLC members. So, but your question again, how do you know which ones are what to say, or which ones are more appropriate? As long as you've got a handful of investors that believe in you and want to be part of this film adventure, because that's what we tell people we're involved with. We're not making this film to get rich. We'd love to be able to strike it rich, but that's so rare, and you don't want to present a blue sky proposal to somebody that's unrealistic. So you have to tell every possible investor that we'll definitely do our best to get that money back, plus some gravy on top of that for you, but your money is completely at risk. So you don't want to go to people that are really already fighting to pay their bills, on a monthly basis. It just would be completely unfair to go to certain relatives or friends that just don't have that cushion of money. So usually, after making a film or two, a movie or two, you already know the people that could lose that money. They could lose 10 or 20,000. No one wants to, but they could, and it wouldn't be a detriment to their lifestyle or health or anything else. But they go into it with their eyes open. Investors often want to come into a movie because they like you, they believe in you, they've been a friend for a long time or a family member. They also want to be associated with the adventure of the film. They believe in the topic sometimes very strongly, if it's a big social theme, climate change. There's so many different topics that you can find people that are very passionate about, and they don't mind not losing it per se, but just saying that, okay, it's going to a good cause. You're going to get this message out in this documentary, or part of your feature film story could be about a social issue too. So they want to be associated with that cause that is a little bit bigger than they are. And that's really the kind of people usually that I've been dealing with over the last many, many years, are people that sometimes if a person puts in a certain amount of money, they want to go on the production itself. And that's a big buzz. The juice is in producing and shooting when you're doing movies. Some people get excited about the editing, but I don't. I don't really like editing, even though I'm very good at it. I don't like it at all because it's inside. And for me, I'm into filmmaking to get out in the world and B, get my hands a little dirty in these different places and get immersed. And that's, of course, where the buzz is for most filmmakers, is in the production itself and working with actors. And then the editing is something else. It's a tedious process over months. And you learn to almost, this doesn't hit the topic of investment, but you actually, as a filmmaker, you know when the film is done, when you're just so tired of it, seeing it so many times over months, and you almost not hate it, but you learn to almost say, you know, you've taken too much of my time. This film is really good. And the last few weeks of a film, it tends to be diminishing returns. I think most filmmakers will tell you that you get into nitpicking on a certain word in a certain scene or a certain fraction of a second to cut sooner that the audience generally is not going to care about. These last minute little details that you become obsessed with, try not to as a filmmaker. Try to get at least to 95% of what you wanted. You'll never get 100%. Because you always know you could have done something better in retrospect when you watch your movies. Every time I see any film I've ever done, I know all the mistakes, I know all the things that were very good about it. And you always wish that you could go back with more money and time to do certain things again. So you just have to call it quits after a while, like a painter. When does a painter stop painting? How could we tell, on a canvas? They know, though, like filmmakers know. Off topic, but I thought interesting.